Benjamin, is Rishi Sunak English?
No.
Why not?
He can be British, but he's not English, in my opinion. Because when I see an Englishman, I see someone like some of the peers that I had growing up who are...
Is Bukayo Saka English?
No, not with Bukayo. It's name, isn't it?
Is Ian Wright English?
I don't know. I'm going to say he's not, because my friends that were growing up, they were aware that where they were from. Like if they were Jamaican,
Junior,
or they were Indian.
Sorry, Benjamin. I got.
So you've just heard a caller claim that Rishi Sunak and Bukayo Saka aren't English. Not for anything they've done, just the colour of their skin. Let me be clear, there's no both sides here. That's flatly wrong. Saka's as English as they come. But I didn't want to just dunk on one bloke. Because the host, James Hanson, asks a genuinely hard question at the end, and then a second caller rings in with an answer that stopped me in my tracks. Let's watch. And before I tell you to like and hit that subscribe button, please allow me the chance to earn that from you.
Michael is in Canterbury. Morning, Michael. What would you like to say?
Morning, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Up at the same time this morning.
Indeed. So what do you reckon about Farage then in this gift?
It's just a smear campaign. For me, that's the way I see it. It's just a smear campaign. He's been hacked. Someone's got some information. They found out he's got a gift. So what? He's got given a gift. Do you know what the issue is? You have the MP, you've got Looney Lammy and the rest of these loonies, all calling him Hitler, Nazis, fascists. And look at Starmer's speech the other day. Example, another one. Bad things are coming and this, that and the other. Someone's giving him a gift, an unconditional gift, which is always stated, So...
But Michael...
And I'm a Conservative voter, but I am going to reform now. I will be going to vote reform because, you can see what's going on and you can see the smears and this, that and the other. So, yeah.
But Michael, is it a smear or is it not just perfectly legitimate criticism? Was it a smear when people attacked Keir Starmer for taking free clothes and glasses from Lord Alley?
For me, yeah, that was a bit of a smear.
That was a smear too?
Absolutely.
So you have no issue with Keir Starmer getting free clothes from a Labour donor?
I've got no issues with people getting things from a Labour, from any donors, For me, personally, it doesn't bother me. It's part and parcel of the job.
But, Michael, do we not need to be a bit careful that when very wealthy people give politicians gifts, might they want something in return?
I've just come into that. What the issues were around them donations, right, that Starmer had was his best mate was then getting the keys to number 10. Now, that shouldn't have been happening. But who said this Bitcoin boy has what? What's been promoted? So he's not even in.
Reformer campaigning for pro-crypto policies.
And what is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. You're entitled to do that. But do you not think that might be linked to why this crypto billionaire might want to give money to Nigel Farage?
Hold on. You can only criticise on that once. He's in number 10, and then that comes about. But that's not coming about yet.
Hang on. He's a party leader. He wants to be Prime Minister. Are we not allowed to hold people accountable when they are running to be Prime Minister?
There's not a problem with running, but you're only speculating.
But hang on, Keir Starmer said he would resign if he was found to have breached COVID lockdown rules, for example, over that beer and curry he had. I don't know if you remember that. He did get away with it because he was cleared by police in the end. But it was right to say, this man might be our next Prime Minister, we should hold him to account. I don't know why we should give Nigel Farage a free pass, given he wants to be the next Prime Minister.
Absolutely, and he's being investigated on it. And he's always confirmed it's a gift. And
if he's... Well, we shall see. If he is found to have breached the rules, what should happen?
I don't know. It depends on how they've been breached.
Because,
Look at Angela Rayner, for instance. She's just breached some rules, didn't she? But she didn't even
She underpaid on housing tax, on stamp duty. She now claims she's been cleared by HMRC.
Yeah, I mean, you worked that one out. Can you imagine you?
Well, she's had to pay the money back. She's had to pay the money back.
Where's the fine?
But she hasn't been fined, as far as we understand.
And where's the interest?
But,
do you know what I mean?
But, Michael, that I'm afraid, is whataboutery. Look, I'm not here to defend Angela Rayner over her tax affairs, but that is whataboutery.
which is exactly the same. Actually, that one's confirmed. Farage's hasn't been confirmed.
You think Angela Rayner's housing tax issue is worse than Nigel Farage getting a £5 million gift from a reform donor?
No, her one has been confirmed, right? So
well, we know that Nigel Farage has received this money.
Yeah, we know we've received, but the investigation is ongoing.
When Nigel Farage
just started.
When Nigel Farage said to an American podcaster in 2024, "There's no money in politics unless you're corrupt."
Yeah.
Does that raise an eyebrow?
Not really, no. I think he might be telling the truth.
But the man is now a multi-millionaire. He's the highest earning MP in Parliament. He earned about £2 million last year.
£5 million for security and other things, right? Which was an unconditional gift. And it doesn't help when you have, like, the leaders of the current government refusing you security on one hand, and on the other hand, they're calling you Nazis.
But Michael, on the security point,
things like that.
Is £5 million Is £5 million enough money to cover security for face-to-face surgeries in your constituency?
It's not just face-to-face surgeries, is it?
So you're saying it's not enough because it's got to cover other stuff too?
Absolutely.
So how much does he need for security then?
Well, you tell me how much a security guard is, because they're not just you any Joe.
Well, they're not £5 million, are they?
On your door, are they?
Any people who work in security listening, do you get paid £5 million a shift?
I think they're a bit more than £23 an hour.
Yeah, but come on, £5 million tax-free can pay for a couple of security guards in a village hall in Clacton.
It's not just a couple of security guards in a village hall in Clacton, is it? What about when he goes about?
You see, Michael, this is what I worry about, is that and look, I take your point that you're traditionally a Conservative voter, but you're going towards reform. You'll probably vote for Nigel Farage in the next election, which you are perfectly entitled to do. There are lots of people who support his policies. But why can't you separate the policies from the person and go, in this instance, this doesn't pass the sniff test?
For me, I can't say it does or doesn't, because it's not been confirmed on what he's done wrong. He might be all okay. As long as he's all in the boxes, then there's no issue, is there?
Well, we will have to see. Michael, appreciate the call. Morning, Benjamin. What would you like to say?
Hi there. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
I would like to say that, you was just saying any politician worth our trust. In my opinion, Rupert Lowe has so far proved to me that he's worth that trust. So, yeah,
blimey, you're another Rupert Lowe fan. Why? Why does he appeal to you?
I think he's a man of integrity, and I think that's lacking in our selection of leaders or potential leaders at the minute. And at least so far, I would change my opinion if he does something that seems not quite right to myself. But yeah, I think everything he said, he's been consistent, and he hasn't walked it back as he's got closer to power, as I would argue Nigel Farage has with certain things.
What are you worried about with Nigel Farage walking stuff back? What specifically?
Perhaps I should have, got the video up, but there is a post via Restore Britain where they put out just a montage, really, online of things that Nigel Farage has said, and then he's changed his opinion on. I think it's probably going to be Islam, migration, Christianity, the white English ethnicity sort of population as a percentage. I think he's changed his stance.
But this is the problem, Benjamin, with Rupert Lowe. He bangs on about stuff like white English ethnicity. I don't want politicians talking about people's skin colour.
Why is that a problem?
Why is that a problem?
Yeah, 100 years ago, we would
race
talk about
should be irrelevant.
Well, 100 years ago, when we was 200 years ago, when we was an empire, it was important to us. And perhaps,
Yeah, and we were wrong to think that. And we were wrong to think that. Race is irrelevant. Race shouldn't matter.
Are we not in a worse position now than we was 200-300 years ago?
What, and you think that's to do with race, do you?
No, but I think perhaps we should look at some of the ideas that we had back then. Well, that sounds kind of crazy.
What kind of ideas?
Talking about, I would argue that the new sort of woke, transgenderism, being politically correct, all of these sort of things that I've witnessed growing
Benjamin,
up.
you're just kind of doing culture war bingo at the moment, coming out with different buzzwords. What do you mean?
I think it's quite clear what I mean. I think I'm just tying it up in, bunches.
What ideas from 200 years ago should we bring back?
or let's talk about maybe, I guess one clear one would be like comedy. If you watch like, I don't know, like Only Fools and Horses episodes when they were out there with their
you're
jokes.
allowed to watch Only Fools and Horses, Benjamin. No
Yeah.
one has banned Del Boy.
No, but you look at that in contrast with the comedy today, I would argue that it's
But
lost
Rupert
its, like,
Lowe
flavour.
is not going to revive British comedy if he's elected Prime Minister.
No, but the reason that we are censoring ourselves like that is because of the culture. And I think once we get rid of that and we go back to just being honest and we have like real discussions, then then I think these things will cure themselves.
But why do you care about people's race?
I don't. A way in which maybe it's trying to be framed. I would say I would care in the same way that if India wanted to, I don't know, take back Pakistan, we would be like, no, that's for Pakistan. Like, let them, be their whole population, 95% or whatever. But I just want the same for the English. I just think if we look at England, let's remember that, a certain demographic is white English. And I would
Benjamin,
like to
is
observe it
Rishi
that way.
Sunak English?
No.
Why not?
He can be British, but he's not English, in my opinion. Because when I see an Englishman, I see someone like some of the peers that I had growing up who are...
Is Bukayo
they're
Saka
white.
English?
No, not with Bukayo. His name, isn't it?
Is Ian
Like, he can be
Wright
British.
English?
I don't know. I'm going to say he's not, because my friends that were growing up, they were aware that where they were from. Like if they were Jamaican,
Junior,
or they were Indian.
sorry, Benjamin. I got a message here from Junior I want to put to you.
Okay.
He says, please can you ask your caller, how would his black or brown friends react listening to him on the radio now if he has any? Do you have any black or brown friends?
Yes. Well, I would say I haven't talked to them in a while, especially not since like COVID. I would say everything's sort of quiet down, but I think if you put the same argument to them,
And
like,
if you told them I don't think you're English purely because of the colour of your skin,
oh no, I think what I would say back to them is, listen, would you want Jamaica to become 75% populated by Jamaicans and then 25% by some other? Would you be okay as like if Jamaicans became a minority in Jamaica? And I don't think any of them would agree with that. And I think then, if we had a real conversation...
Benjamin, I
get to the
honestly
same point
do
here.
not care what the racial composition of this country is.
You may not, but I think some people do. And I think that's what you're doing.
Why?
Why?
Because
Well, I've given
deep
you my
down we are
reasons. I
all
can't
the
give you
same.
everyone else's.
You can be opposed to mass immigration because you're worried about the strain it'll have on public services and the numbers coming in. Entirely legitimate. You can be opposed to the small boat crossings because we believe in border security and we don't want illegal migration and we don't know who those people are.
I think
that's okay. But when you start banging on about basically ethnic nationalism,
yeah,
that's deeply alarming.
Look, it may be to yourself as a radio presenter, but I think...
It's alarming to myself as a human being, to be honest.
No, but there are like certain subjects, I would say, as a radio presenter, that you probably don't want to touch. And I could roll off probably vaccines, the COVID vaccine. I would say the war in Russia.
Oh, blimey.
And I would say our inflation problem.
Benjamin.
Everyone seems to have forgot monetary inflation.
Can I ask you something? And look, I appreciate this might sound deeply patronising, and I don't mean it to, but do you spend a lot of time online? Do you spend a lot of time on X?
Well, I would argue more since COVID than I probably did before. But I had a perspective.
I think you've gone down a rabbit hole. I've definitely been down a few rabbit holes. I would agree with that. But it doesn't make them not true. And I don't think like these things are discussed. Can we help pull you out? Can we put a rope down there? Because I don't think...
I think the only way it would be resolved...
You're a lost cause. But when you start banging on about people's race all the time, Benjamin, come on.
I think you could, but like you'd have to have honest debate. Like you'd have to get someone like John Campbell on LBC pull him through the ringer, let him explain what he's found in terms of excess deaths since 2021.
Now we're on to vaccines. Yeah, okay.
or the Duran in terms of their position on the war in Ukraine. They seem to be quite consistent in terms of geopolitics. So like pulling them on and having, the discussion. I've seen it done with Sheila and the Iranian professor. And I don't think you've ever really come out better in that. So it just leads me to believe that, what you see online is more true than what you hear through the state media or, whatever it is yourself, BBC and ITV would come under, working for Ofcom or whatever.
Benjamin, we're going to leave it there, but thank you for the call. Benjamin in Medway there. Let's get some of your reaction to the call we just had from Benjamin, who was ringing in to endorse the Restore leader, Rupert Lowe, but expressed views about, essentially ethno-nationalism that I think it's fair to say are deeply disturbing. And I'm not saying that's everyone. Of course it is, and it is a minority, but sadly I fear it is a growing minority. And of course we are speaking on the day of this Tommy Robinson-led protest in the centre of London. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on and the policing of it. But I wonder how many people on that march may agree with some of the views that Benjamin has expressed. Alex is in Oxford. Morning, Alex. What would you like to say?
Good morning. I just want to say thank you to you for hosting this conversation. I think Ben and the people who think like him are a minority. They're vocal, they're present, they're marching today. But I think that on Farage, he said that in order to make money in politics, you have to be corrupt. It's under investigation, and I've got every confidence that he's going to be found to have done something wrong. As far as Ben is concerned, the last caller, as a black person myself, I have never before been more conscious of my colour than I am in the current era. And I was raised in the 1970s, and it was bad then. This is overt. It's like people have been given permission to be racist, and that's what it is. As far as where Ben's coming from, and as far as Mr. Lowe, Rupert Lowe, and Nigel Farage are concerned, they're cut from the same cloth, dressed up in a suit. Back in the 1970s, we had the National Front putting leaflets through our letterbox saying, "We want our country back. Go back to where you come from." That's what's happening today. And I'd like good people like you and the other listeners who won't bother calling in to know that we're right and they are wrong.
And I think what I find staggering is, when I said to Benjamin, is Rishi Sunak English, is Bukayo Saka English, is Ian Wright English? I mean, Alex, you say you're a person of colour yourself.
Yeah.
I'm guessing being in Oxford, you consider yourself English?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. I've written a book on it. I've written a book on being black and English, and I've mentioned Rishi Sunak and a whole load of other people who are as English as the ground beneath our feet. My parents got here in the 1950s, rebuilt this country. We've got people of colour keeping the NHS going, serving in the police force like I do. People who, doctors and nurses who contribute to this country being marginalised, being made to feel unwelcome. And I'm so glad, again, that people like your good self are on the right side of history. This is another chapter in the book of this country. We're going to get through it. They're going to be happier chapters ahead, but we do need people like you to help be the author of happier chapters by holding people to account when they come onto your channel and talk racist nonsense.
Alex, I really appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Alex in Oxford there. 03456060973 is the number. We will return to the issue of Farage and this donation in a moment, but I'll just do one more message on this. Karen says, James, someone who cares about Benjamin needs to intervene. The poor fella needs help. I think as he was talking to you, you could hear him starting to realise his isolation and unhappiness. Good luck, Benjamin. Maybe a trip to your GP might be a good start. Or call up a friend who's been avoiding you. And look, I genuinely, and I hope you could sort of hear it as I was chatting to Benjamin, I do worry about people like that, because I think they're not necessarily in their heart of hearts bad people. They might be believing terrible things, but I think they almost have been brainwashed in a way. And I don't know what the solution is, because if you start shouting at them and calling them brainwashed idiots, there's a chance they just go further down that rabbit hole and become more defensive and are convinced that, you know, people like me on the mainstream media are trying to smear them, or whatever it may be. And yet, how do you have that debate? It's a live question. It's an active question.
Right. Let's go back to that moment. Is Bukayo Saka English? And the answer he gave, no. I want to sit with that for a second, because I think a lot of people heard that call and thought, well, that's obviously an extreme view. Most people don't think like that. Let's move on. And you're right, most people don't. But I think dismissing it too quickly is a mistake, because what's interesting isn't that Benjamin holds that view. It's how he got there, and it's the language he used to dress it up. Listen to the way he framed it. He didn't come out and say, I don't like people of colour. He started with Rupert Lowe, integrity, consistency, a politician who hasn't walked it back. Perfectly reasonable sounding stuff. Then it drifted into culture war buzzwords, transgenderism, censorship, comedy not being what it used to be. And only then, once he'd built up a bit of runway, did he get to the actual point. Rishi Sunak isn't English. Bukayo Saka isn't English. Ian Wright isn't English. That's the mechanism. It never starts with the ugly bit. It starts with something that sounds defensible, and by the time you get to the real claim, you're supposed to have already nodded along enough times that you don't notice how far you've travelled. And to be clear, being worried about immigration numbers, wanting secure borders, not knowing who's crossing in small boats, none of that is what we're talking about here. Tom said it himself on air, and he's right. Those are legitimate positions people hold for legitimate reasons. What Benjamin was doing is a different thing entirely. He was telling a British-born footballer, a British-born broadcaster, and a sitting Prime Minister of this country that their passport doesn't count because of how they look. That's not a border policy. That's a colour test. And here's the bit that actually worries me more than Benjamin himself. When he was asked if he even has any black or brown friends left, his answer was that he hasn't really spoken to them since COVID. He's not describing a political position. He's describing an isolation. Down a rabbit hole, as Tom put it, and Benjamin agreed with that description himself. He knows he's in one, he just doesn't think it means he's wrong. Then Alex called in, and if you only watch one part of this clip back, watch her. Because she didn't shout. She didn't call him a racist and hang up. She said, I was raised in the 70s. It was bad then. And this feels worse. Because now people feel like they've been given permission. She's written a book about being black and English. Her parents came here in the 50s and helped rebuild this country. And her answer to, is Rishi Sunak English, wasn't a slogan. It was simply, yes, obviously, as English as the ground beneath our feet. That's the actual live question Tom was left holding at the end. Not whether Benjamin is racist. He's fairly clearly told you what he thinks. The real question is what you do with someone who's got there through isolation and algorithm rather than malice. Someone who Tom himself said probably isn't a bad person. Deep down, just a man who's been fed the same conclusion from 100 different angles until it stopped looking extreme to him. And I'll say this. The loudest story out of that show was supposed to be Nigel Farage and a £5 million gift from a crypto donor on the day he wants to be seen as untouchable and on the way to number 10. That's the story about power. That's the one that actually affects who governs you and who they answer to. Instead, an entire hour ends up consumed by whether a Premier League winger counts as English. I don't think that's an accident. Distraction like that is useful. While everyone's arguing about who belongs and who doesn't, nobody's asking the harder question about who's actually buying influence over the next Prime Minister. While everyone's arguing about who belongs and who doesn't, nobody's asking the harder question about who's actually buying influence over the next Prime Minister. That's where I am on it.